Okay. All right. Now we have a special guest star to put some, what should we call it, some evidence-based facts on the table about sleep management and the challenges that people get into when they put themselves into a race like a Garmin Round Denmark race, or like a Vegvisir race, or these long distance solo sailing races. And that's you, Birgitte. Could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm an expert in sleep biology. I'm an associate professor at University of Copenhagen, where I am a research leader, and I also educate the med students and so on in sleep biology. So yeah, I guess that's why I'm invited here today.
Definitely.
As a sleep expert.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, because these solo races are really about sleeping as little as possible. Well, we have this rule. I'm just going to tell about it very shortly. I'm going to put this up here. This is a kind of a graphical presentation of what this, we call it the TRR44 Rule. And it's about that the sailors are under a rule where they have to where they can maximally sail for 36 hours, and then they have to take a rest of at least 8 hours sleep, and that's what they get. You could say that they can subtract these 8 hours if they sleep more. It's on their own cost, so to speak. And when these 44 hours are gone, 3 times 12 plus 8, then a new slot starts, and then they have additionally 8 hours to that they can subtract from the final time. The previous time we had quite a few sailors that spend up to 10 days of sailing. So my question, of course, to you, Birgitte, is this healthy for you? How do you perceive?
No, it's not healthy, and it's definitely not healthy for the brain. But I think in these kind of endurance sports, that's part of the sport. That part of it is how to tackle the lack of sleep. And it will, a schedule like this for 10 days, you will sleep too little, for sure, no matter what you do. So you will suffer the consequences of too little sleep, which will hurt brain performance, and you'll have to figure out a way to deal with it. And I think a very good preparation for a race like this is also to think about sleep and how to deal with the sleep deprivation that will occur.
Yeah. Sleep deprivation, that means the lack of sleep?
Lack of sleep, yeah. It means not a total lack of sleep, but like too little sleep for a period of time. Sleep restriction, whatever. Lack of sleep. Yeah, in a schedule like this, for sure you will not get enough sleep. Even if you try to take more breaks and sleep an hour here and there, it's not possible to get enough sleep.
What happens to the body and mind when you don't get enough sleep? What are the
organ that really needs sleep is the brain. Yeah. So if you don't get enough sleep, the brain will start suffering, and the first thing that will happen is that the reaction time slows down, and your ability to make solid decisions based on facts also becomes less good. So you will be more driven by emotions and irrationality. So you might end up taking some really stupid decisions when you are sleep deprived. Okay. So that's kind of it. And then with time, people experience hallucinations with stuff like this. I was trying to look for like real scientific evidence, and I must say I could not find very much on solo sailing. There's been a little bit more done on long distance cycling, like Race Across America, where people have looked also at sleep and effects of lack of sleep. And it's really, hallucinations is a big problem. People start seeing things that are not there. And there are also anecdotes of people sailing that have seen that they think they are at shore, but they're not. So they step into the water. So that's super dangerous, of course.
Okay.
So hallucinations is something you have to be aware of can happen. And another thing is mood swings. When you start being sleep deprived, you can feel very large mood swings, larger than normal. So it will feel very like, maybe you feel like, what is up with me? Why am I all of a sudden crying over nothing? Like, that's not me, but that will become you when you sleep too little.
Okay. All right. And what is too little? Is it individual, or can you say, or is there a kind of well, there's 8 hours or something?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look on average, most people will have to take between 7 or 8 hours per 24 hours. But there is some individuality. But if you sleep less than 6 hours, everybody will become impaired. So, and I think it's unlikely that the sailors will get 12 hours sleep in 24 hours. So everybody will feel it. Some people deal with it better. And that's also what I can see in the literature, is that actually what matters is the way you deal with sleep, lack of sleep, and how you set up everything, like how your helpers need to know about sleep and the effects of too little sleep. And you have to know how it feels. Some people I can see up in the training period, they try to go a few days without sleep just to feel how it does it feel when you become very tired. So that can actually help in the preparation. Another trick for preparation is to sleep a lot in the last days up to the race. Get as much sleep as possible, so at least you are filled up, like that you don't go into the race with a lack of sleep. So those are the two things that can help.
So it's possible. I think there was another kind of anecdote that you can't sleep in advance, but that's
you cannot really sleep in advance, but you can make sure that you are sleeping enough. Most people, like in our kind of, if you have a job and a family and everything, a lot of people sleep a little too little every day. So don't do that up to. Try to get all the sleep you can.
Yeah.
So at least you don't go into the race with a lack of sleep.
I know from some of the French solo sailors, which are known to be the best in the world, that they kind of train train to be sleep. What do we call it? Deprived or deprived?
Deprived, yeah, or they train lack of sleep. Yeah.
Is that even possible, or is it a placebo kind of?
No, you cannot train the brain. You cannot train the brain to be better at dealing with no sleep. You need sleep, but what you can train is how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Like you can recognize the feeling if you have tried it before to not sleep. You recognize it better. Maybe you deal with it better. The feelings, the mood swings, the hallucinations, all that. You can become better at recognizing it when it happens.
Okay, I think I'm gonna get back to this at the end. How to put up a kind of a training regime or something to do exactly that. But before I have just a few bullets I would like to come across. We talked about the French. They also are really renowned for having these power naps, and they have this. They have a crazy alarm on board the boat because they get really tired. And if you have heard one of these alarms, it's like a normal alarm watch, just like multiplied by 1,000 or something. You get really scared, and some of them even sleep over it, even though that is so noisy. But power naps, is that a good thing during a race?
Yes, yeah, I think during a race that's a good thing. A power nap is not. Even it's called a power nap. It's not better sleep. It's the same. So if you sleep for 10 minutes in a power nap, that's what it counts for, is 10 minutes sleep. So it's not anything magic about it. I think it just means taking like a short nap, and it does take like a little bit of the sleepiness away, and it can feel really refreshing. The trick for power naps is to sleep less than 20 minutes, 10, 15 minutes tops, because then you avoid going into the deep sleep, and then it's easier to wake up again. If you sleep 30 minutes, you will go into the deepest sleep, and it's very difficult to wake up. Then it's better to go a full hour or maybe an hour and a half, and then you can wake up from the lighter sleep that will come back after an hour and a half. So that's what's the trick about power naps, is actually making them really short, and then using them as a refreshment for the brain.
Okay, because if you go longer, then you go into the deep sleep, and it's a problem getting out of there.
Waking up, that's probably why they need the strong alarm, because when they become so tired, you can actually, the brain will go very fast into deep sleep if you're really, really tired. So in 10 minutes even, you could risk that you end up in the very deep sleep, and it's difficult to wake up. And then you need this shock, and it's not healthy at all. You will activate, the heart rate will go up and everything. It's not healthy. But in a race, maybe that you sacrifice a little bit your health.
So that's when you're woken up from the deep sleep, what's the you say your heart rate, and you disturb the body thinks that now it rests, and then it's needs to get going again, and
that can be a tough one. If you're very tired, it's difficult to wake up. That's also something you could probably practice beforehand, is to try and sleep for half an hour and see how easy you can wake up. And find some tricks that works for you. I don't know, there are no like scientifically really solid tips, so I don't know. I think it would be individual what works.
When this race goes on, the participants are obliged to have a shore crew, and I know some of them even have a whole shore team, so they can be on watch with the skipper, so to speak. And is there any science that these shore crew how could you imagine to set up the best possible solution for the guy on the water being connected to the guys on ashore to
work with sleep? I think one thing to think about is make sure the crew on land gets enough sleep, that they are not sleep deprived as well. Which I imagine could happen if you are into the race and you are following a sailor and you don't sleep yourself. That would be very stupid. So at least make sure the crew on land has some kind of schedule so they get enough sleep. And then I guess also, if you know the sailor very well, you will know when him or her starts maybe talking a little bit slower, maybe not making sense. And then you will know, okay, this person needs some sleep soon. Or maybe you can see on the way the boat moves. I don't know this field. That's not my at all. But if you can see, hey, what's happening? What is that for a stupid decision for setting the course or whatever? Then that could also be a sign of sleep.
We have this surveillance from the boats. They have a tracker, so you can actually see if the boats do strange things. And I know the shore crew does that, but also from race management, we have a team looking after if something looks really, really wrong.
And then the one issue is that I guess is super difficult for the land crew is that once you are sleep deprived, you can have problems judging your own performance, because that's difficult for the brain to know what it's doing itself. So you will probably think you are doing well, but the crew can see you are not doing well. So you need some kind of agreement that if the crew says, okay, this is it, you whatever, then you have to follow their orders and not make your own decisions anymore. So I think it's something that it's a good thing to talk about with the crew. How do we handle if the sailor becomes very sleep deprived and stops listening to advice? Because that could happen.
I guess it could be kind of like when you hear the guys who try to summit a mountain, that they have these rules. If they are not on the top or whatever, before a certain time of day, then they go down no matter how good they feel and think they can do it. There could be a kind of an agreement that or a fine line that when you cross that, then the shore crew should call you to harbor. But what would that be? Would that be like you said before? They sound weird when you talk to them on the spot?
I would say that very stupid decisions and signs of hallucinations. If you start hallucinating, that's pretty bad.
Okay, then you are across.
Then you cross the line. Yeah.
Okay.
But
okay.
that's probably what also the French crews they do is they train the sleep aspect as well, so they know a little bit better what is my signs for very tough sleepiness, because it's also individual how people react. So it's a good idea to try it out and see how do you react if you. But I don't know, it's difficult to do, right? If you have a job, you have to do it in a weekend or in a vacation or something.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Okay, there are all these kind of technical devices around at these days where you can monitor everything, body hacks of all kinds of all kinds. But do you have any? Do you use any in your research, and do they work?
No, I don't use any in my research, so I don't know that much about all the different devices that exist. What is in general, you could say that the different trackers become better and better at tracking sleep. They still have a lot of problems distinguishing sleep stages, but they're pretty good at detecting sleep onset and off, like when sleep starts and when it stops, like any of the devices, a watch, the ring, whatever. So you can reasonably trust that. I don't know how well it works on a boat. I don't think that's been tested because it also detects movement. So if the boat is rocking, it's probably messed up.
Yeah.
And devices for detecting sleepiness, there are none. There's no one. There's been some experiments with trying to measure the speed of eye blink. If you blink very slow, then you are very sleepy. That correlates really well.
Yeah.
And you can probably, if you talk to people that are very sleepy, they will blink very slowly. But you have to be in a vehicle to really set up a device that video films them eyes. So there's no good devices to use. That's my opinion.
But it could be maybe also be a point on the list for the shore crew to, if they have a video call to.
No, yeah, do they do that? Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
Yes, especially if you know a person well, you can see when that person is tired.
Okay.
But they will look tired all the time. Yeah, you have to. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. They do look a bit tired, I must admit. I've interviewed them when they are sailing, some of them, and you're right. They really put themselves on the line for sure.
Yeah, maybe you can have like if you take little notes every time you talk with the sailor, then you can make a little note about how awake they look and kind of see and follow it and see, okay, now it's getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
It's time or whatever. I don't know.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think if we should try to sum it up, if you should try to make if you want to participate in one of these races where you know for sure that you're gonna lack some sleep, how could you set up this kind of a training regime or a alarm system with your shore crew or whatever we should call it to get better at handling it and to know when you are crossing the fine line?
Yeah, that's difficult. There actually is one study that looked at preparation techniques when it comes to sleep, and the results, it was across Atlantic, one of the races across the Atlantic Ocean solar race. And it turns out that the sailors kind of used 3 different techniques for practicing the lack of sleep. And so one group was using sleep as much as possible before the race technique. And they did quite well in the race. Another group was testing lack of sleep, like complete lack of sleep for a long time, and kind of figuring out how it feels.
Yeah.
And they did as well. The two groups did equally well. The third group trained the short sleep, like they were training in sleeping short amounts of time over some days, sleeping little fragments. Sometimes it's called polyphasic sleep. And they did worse.
Okay.
So I think training sleeping in short chunks doesn't work, according to that study. What works is training lack of sleep for a long time and learning how it feels, learning your signs, learning how to deal with it so you can recognize it when it happens underwater. Yeah. And the other thing is getting enough sleep beforehand if you're not too nervous about the race.
Yeah.
So those two things, I think there's some scientific evidence that actually works. Yeah. And apart from that is setting up a good system with your crew and figuring out what to do, what signs should I look for, what do I do if I need sleep. And I have one more I was just thinking about. One problem in these kind of endurance sports, not only sailing, but also the other ones, is that when you eventually try to sleep, it's super difficult because you are so geared up and your brain is... So that's also a really tough thing to deal with. And you can try and make it easier by taking sleeping breaks during the night. It's much easier to sleep when it's dark than light. So if you can time your breaks so that at least they are in the dark, that's better. I don't know how easy it is towards the end. And another thing that but that's from the biking races, is the longer you can do the first stretch, if you can keep awake very long, the first stretch, so that you go into the second night before you sleep, that's easier to sleep then.
Okay.
That's what they say, but that's from the bikes. I don't know for sailing if that can be translated, but because it is difficult if you are really in racing mode to find the peace to sleep, then you make it easier if you are very, very, very tired. So you go very long and then it's dark.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something you can think about, trying to time the sleep to the dark times.
Yeah.
If possible.
Okay. I think that was a good ending to time your sleep for the dark times.
Yeah, I know it's probably much easier than it sounds easier than it is when you are out alone sailing. But I appreciate that you are making a rule like this for sleep, because it's super dangerous to be very sleep deprived. Yeah. Once the hallucinations start coming, it's really very dangerous, and you can get badly hurt because you don't know anymore what's real and what's not, and you will take some very stupid decisions. So it's important to take into account and plan it so that this is an important aspect of the race.
Okay. Thank you, Birgitte. I'm going to end the recording and then